In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to build a fantastic gaming PC build for in and around a $1,400 budget. A system that provides great gaming performance at not only 1080p, but 1440p too in the latest AAA titles. Whether you're playing Battlefield 6, Call of Duty's Black Ops 7, or popular esports games like Apex Legends and Fortnite. I'll be walking through the parts I've selected for this build and why as I show you guys how to put this system together, and then finishing off with gaming benchmarks at both the 1080 and 1440p resolutions. So without any further ado, let's dive into it. The Valkyrie V240 and V360 are here, with high-speed pumps for high thermal efficiency, S12 fans which are optimized for radiators, and a 5-year warranty. The V-Series is stacked with features. A 3.5-inch LCD screen sits front and center, letting you show off key performance metrics at a quick glance, with an epic unboxing experience, great performance, and unique visual design, which round off an awesome package. Learn more at the first links in the description below. Now, if you're building any gaming PC, the first thing I'd recommend you do is take your SSD, your memory, your CPU, and install all of these into your motherboard as early as possible. This is going to allow you to start getting the system built outside of the case, and is a great opportunity for me to walk you through the 4 components I've selected for this part of the build. Now, when it comes to CPUs, for me there are 2 choices in this build, the 7600 or the 7600X. Ultimately, I would pick whatever is cheapest at the time that you're building this system, and I'll leave latest pricing for Amazon in the description below. And basically what this CPU is going to do is unlock fantastic gaming performance at both 1080p and 1440p. The temperatures on this CPU are pretty solid too, and if you go for the slightly slower non-X derivative, you do get included with the processor AMD's stock cooler. Now that means that if you are not that bothered about the aesthetics necessarily of your build, or particularly worried about cooling, you could actually use this to cool down your CPU rather than going for a larger aftermarket unit. Just beware when you pick up an X version of AMD CPUs, you don't get that cooler included. I'm going to be installing the Ryzen 5 7600 onto ASRock's B850M Steel Legend Wi-Fi. Now, obviously in the current climate where things are a little bit expensive, and I'm going to dive into that in a moment, whenever we can save money on a component, it's an opportunity that we should absolutely take up. And this motherboard is a great example of that. Now, what this does is provides us a really compact micro ATX form factor that will help to make today's gaming PC build a little bit smaller in size, which I don't actually think is a bad thing. But it still retains lots of the key features that we're going to want from a motherboard at this price point. For example, we've got support for up to 3 NVMe M.2 drives, we've got our AM5 socket, which theoretically allows you to install anything from a Ryzen 5 7500F to a 9950X3D, 4 RAM DIMMs with dual channel memory support, front panel USB Type-C, and on the rear I/O we've got a good spread, which includes our nice fast USB-C ports and onboard Wi-Fi. Cheaper boards sometimes omit Wi-Fi as a feature. That means you have to have a really crap dongle. We don't want to do that. This is just a better way to go about it. Now, if you've not installed a CPU before, this is how you're going to go about doing it. We're going to take the socket and we're going to make a note of where the triangle is. So we've got a triangle up here in the top left-hand corner. I'm then going to push the arm down and out. That will then free and become a bit floppy. And nobody wants floppy.
That's what she said.
Then once that's up, we can lift the CPU socket up and then line the processor up and pop that into place. Now I'm going to install it just to show you how it goes in. There we are. And what you'll see is a little triangle just here on the CPU itself. That triangle is going to align with the same triangle on the CPU socket, and that's how you get your orientation. Now you can give your CPU a little bit of a wiggle to make sure that it's seated correctly, but it shouldn't really move very much. The socket cover is then going to go down, the black plastic stays in place, push the arm down, there we are, and the black plastic will pop off. This is going to protect the pins on the socket, so do try and keep it safe. Next up, it's time for the most controversial PC component of 2026. We're of course talking about this stuff, memory. Now, I'm not going to say it in every video because you're all aware of what's happening. Big shortages of memory, price go high, everyone be very sad, myself included. This is 32 gigabytes. My suggestion would be you find the cheapest 32 gigabyte DDR5 kit you can. This is white and RGB, so it matches the theme. Any brand is going to be fine. It's James from the future here, and I also wanted to point out for this particular build, another option you have got is to go for a single 16 gig DIMM now, and then try and add a further 16 gig later. I did some testing on this recently, which showed that especially these lower price points, the memory capacity actually makes very little difference to a certain degree. Check that out in the cards now, and it could be a good way to trim that $1,400 price back down towards about $1,200 USD. Anyway, I'll let you get back to the video. Here in the UK, prices have stabilized at around $350 for a 32GB kit, and there are good options at that price point. I wouldn't expect the price to fall. I'm not saying the price is good, but ultimately you have to make a decision as to whether you want to pay it. And I have tried to trim out costs elsewhere in the build to provide a little more money for the memory, but the way it goes right now, unfortunately. I'm going to be installing into the 2nd and 4th RAM DIMM slots, so pull the little clips back. Some boards have clips on both sides, but these ones don't, as they're a little bit fancy. On the memory, you'll then find this little notch. That's going to line up with the notches on the slots. Slide the memory into the top of the slot, just getting it lined up. Don't rush this stage. Once you're happy that it's lined up, bit of pressure on both sides, and that will secure the kit down into place. Repeat that for both of your RAM DIMMs, and don't be afraid to give them a little bit of a pull on the side where they're clipped in, just to check they won't come out. It's better to pull them out now than find they're not connected later on. Storage is the next part I'm going to deal with. This is also a little bit difficult at the moment. This is Lexar's EQ790. It's a 1TB drive. Now, this is a very fast SSD and faster than I'd normally use for this build. I'd normally aim for between 5,000 and 6,000 megabytes a second. This is 7. We actually managed to pick up quite a few of these for my UK PC building company, GeekaPC, at a really good price, so just be flexible with the drive you go for. We are planning, by the way, if you're based in the UK, on selling this over on GeekaPC as a pre-built. So if you want to check that out, I'll link it down below. The parts will be pretty much identical to this and listed, as always, in the specs on the product page. Now, in terms of installing the SSD, I first actually need to open it because it's brand new and sealed, which is exciting. Picked up some small scissors for my rather small SSD box. Give that a bit of a slice, and then go ahead and pull the Lexar drive out. There you go, you can see our EQ790, very nice. Now, for the next stage of the build, you've got a couple of options. You can either go ahead and grab your normal screwdriver and change the Phillips head bit to a smaller one, or grab a teeny tiny screwdriver. Any long-time viewers of the channel know that reference, let me know. In fact, I think you might, because the shaft on most screwdrivers is too big for this ASRock motherboard. So an oversized shaft means you'll need a teeny tiny screwdriver, and that is going to go in, there we go, just like so. I'm going to remove this one here that says Blazing M.2, which is quite fun branding, I suppose. No, is that the wrong screwdriver bit?
A few moments later.
There we go. And then under there, you'll find room for the NVMe drive. Now, there's a little notch on the NVMe. There's a little notch on the M.2 slot just about here. That's like the theme of this video, notches. Find the notch, line it up, and slide it in. I'm then going to push it down, making sure it's all seated correctly. I feel like that's there. There we are. Fantastic. And then secure the NVMe drive in by popping the heatsink back on. The same 2 screws you obviously loosened, you need to tighten, and that's basically it. Now then, there is one more component that I am going to install before moving the, what I would call the motherboard assembly into the case, and that is this, the Montech NX400. The brief really for me here was just to find a fairly basic, simple and affordable tower air cooler for the Ryzen 5 7600, and this one fit the brief nicely. I think on Newegg at the time of filming, this is coming in around $20 or so. Here in the UK, I found it on scan for like $16.99, which is an absolute bargain. And inside, you'll find a few things. You'll find an actually really rather nice 120mm fan with little rubberized corners. That's very cool. And then you'll find the heatsink itself. Now, the heatsink is silver rather than white, which is obviously slightly preferable, but it's got a white top cover on, and in all honesty, I think it's going to look absolutely fine. As far as installation goes, it's really actually very easy. You just got to get these black stoppers and just place these on top of your posts that poke through the motherboard. AMD motherboards have built-in backplates, Intel motherboards don't, so that's what these little black bits are, and they provide a really nice basis from which I can install the CPU cooler. You then get these little silver brackets. They're going to then pop on top of the black stoppers, a little something like so. I'm obviously going to need to screw them in, so just give me a moment. The next step then is to pop a little bit of thermal paste onto the CPU itself. A little something like so. Lovely jubbly. And then add the actual cooler on and into place. They actually have thumb screws, so you could actually do this, I guess, by hand to begin with, but I'd always recommend finishing off and tensioning with a screwdriver to secure the cooler properly into place. I would also recommend leaving the fan off the cooler for now. You obviously need to add it on later, but the reason being is that that's just going to get in the way when it comes to moving the motherboard into the case. Good stuff. So the next stage is getting the case out of the box and going ahead and getting the motherboard installed into the case. Now, this is Montech's King 15 Pro, and it's basically inspired by their King, I guess, like 95 Pro in terms of design, and lives in this rather sweet looking micro ATX form factor. Oh yeah, tiny. I think the case just looks really nice. You've got those 320mm ARGB fans at the bottom. You've got room for micro ATX motherboards with support for the reverse connect designs as well. Just overall, a very, very nice looking case that looks like it's got all the features we're gonna need. Now, what I am gonna do is I'm gonna take off the glass side panel, the mesh top panel, and then the rear steel panel as well, little something like so, and just put these safe for a minute. And then if I spin the case around to the back, you'll be able to see we've got our integrated ARGB hub and this little door, which is going to help with cable management and allow you to mount drives. I'm going to slide that off for now, get it out of the way. Now, the next thing to check is standoffs. If we take a look at the motherboard, what you'll be able to see here is we've got, I think, 8 or 9 holes in total, 3 at the top, 3 along the middle here, and then yes, 2 down the bottom at slightly different heights. What we need to find out is whether the standoffs in the case are in the right locations or not. So there's 3 at the top, good, 3 along the middle, and then 2 down the bottom at slightly different heights. That's actually perfect. That couldn't be better. And what that means is I can just slide the motherboard into place, little something like so. And that's it. How easy is that? But remember, you've got to screw it down as well, otherwise it will fall out. Get these. Oh! So you've got 3 screws at the top, 3 along the middle, and 2 down the bottom. And you get those screws in this box, which was on the floor, which is the accessory kit that comes included. And Montech label everything, so it's nice and easy, and you can understand what goes where. The next stage of today's build then is the power supply. Now, everything is pretty much in, apart from that fan I talked about earlier, and the graphics card is remaining. But doing the PSU now is going to be easier. Now, this is MSI's A650BNL in white. We've picked this up for around about that $50 mark, and for that, it's fantastic value for money. It gives us the 650 watts of power that this build is going to need, and gives me a hand injury at the same time. I did get worried then, though, that the cables are black, but it's just the rear kettle lead that's black. The actual power cables on the unit itself are all white, which is lovely. Now, there is, I guess, one downside to this unit, and that downside is that the unit is non-modular, meaning you don't get to choose the cables that are pre-installed, and it means we're going to have some spare cables to have to cable manage once the power supply is installed. But to be honest with you, that's completely fine, and I'm not really too bothered about that. Little bracket at the top of the case here, that is going to hopefully just unclip. Aha! There we are, unclip, fantastic. And then the power supply is going to screw into place a little something like so. You can see we've got our holes at the rear, 1, 2, 3, and 4 in total to get the power supply secured down. Power supply is then going to slide back into this little holder at the top. That's going to click in like so. The bracket does secure down with a couple of thumb screws as well, just to make sure the unit doesn't move. The next stage of the build then, once the PSU is in, is the cabling and the wiring. And this is where things can get a little bit complicated. I'm going to walk you through exactly how to do it. We've got the CPU power cable first. That's going to go to the top left. We've got a 4+4 and a 4 pin. So 12 in total, 1 8-pin and 1 4-pin. On the right-hand side, we've got the motherboard power cable, which is the largest of them all. I'm then going to take the front panel cables, which actually power the I/O on the case, and run these to their respective locations. These include the HD audio, which goes to the bottom left, the JFP1 front panel cables to the bottom right, followed finally by the USB 3 Type A connector, which is notched and the largest of the front panel headers, and USB 3 Type C, which again only goes in one way round, but is smaller. It's less long than our standard USB 3 Type A header. I also want to take a quick moment to explain how this fan and RGB hub at the rear of the case works, because it connects obviously to all your fans and RGB devices, and in return gives you 3 different connectors to deal with. So you can see here, the first of these is a SATA power cable. We're going to plug that in a moment. That gives the hub power. The second is an ARGB header. You don't have to plug this in, but you can plug into your motherboard if you wish, and that will sync the lighting of the fans with the rest of the case. And then I'm also going to finish things off with this 4-pin PWM fan header. That's going to go up to the CPU fan connection and control the fan speed. That means that when the temperature of the build goes up, the fans in the case will naturally spin a bit quicker. Once you've gone ahead and wired all of those up, we're pretty much good to go on the cables and wiring front. Obviously, feel free to tidy up as you wish with some cable ties to get the cables looking a little more pretty. Now's a good time to put the CPU cooler fan into place as well. Just going to run the fan onto the top of the little heatsink here, get it clicked into place, a little something like so. There we are, good stuff. And then I'm going to run the fan cable through to the fan hub at the back and plug the fan cable into the included PWM fan hub. There we go. That was easy, wasn't it? Now, that brings me on to pretty much the final step of today's build. But I do have one more thing I want to do, or talk about, shall I say, after the GPU's in. But for now, graphics card time. Now, I've gone for this, which is ASUS's 16GB RX 9060 XT. Now, the 9060 XT is, in my opinion, one of the best graphics cards we've seen in a long time. It's not going to set the world on fire with great 4K gaming performance, but the 16GB model, which is of course what I've gone for here, is going to give us phenomenal headroom at 1080p and 1440p gaming. Now, this Asus dual model is based on Asus's very popular 2-fan cooler. It's kind of in the name after all, and provides fantastic performance in a nice small form factor. The 8GB card will be sufficient for 1080p gaming, but very, very quickly that 8GB of VRAM is becoming a bottleneck on cards where that level of VRAM is sort of considered to be acceptable. And if you can afford to do so, the 16GB card is definitely the way I would go. Now, how are we going to install this GPU into the case? Well, I'm going to hover it over first our top PCI slot. There we go. And that's going to show me which of the rear lanes need to be removed. In fact, it's the very top two, which makes things nice and easy. So if you're following along for yourself, it's pretty simple. Your first graphics card or your only graphics card is going to go in the first lanes. Now, take these screws out that's securing these PCI sort of slot covers into place, shall we say, and then slide the graphics card into place. And don't forget to take the little plastic. Should we try that again? Then, with the plastic cover removed, slide the graphics card into place. There we are. Are we in? I think we're in. There we go. We're good. And use the same screws you took out just a moment ago to secure the GPU down. I'm also just going to run an 8-pin power cable quickly up to the graphics card. A little something like so. This has the second 8-pin pre-attached, so that's just something to bear in mind. But we can cable tie that out the way and manage it so it's not too much of a problem. I'm then going to cable tie these together just to twin them up and make the whole thing look a bit more tidy. Okay, so we're pretty much there. However, there's something I'm just not sure about. And to demonstrate what that is, I'm going to power this build on and see if I can show you. Power supply switch is on, power button, yes. Oh, we have a cable that's catching. Oh, those fans are lovely. Hang on, what's that? What's that noise? Is there a screw or something down there? Okay, I think the dust filter might need a bit of realignment. I can deal with that. The fans at the bottom though, they look really, really, really amazing. Can you hear that? I'm going to deal with that in a moment. The thing I think it's missing though, we're going to put this back on, is some fans at the top. So I'm going to go ahead and pick up some extra fans for the top of this case before finally checking out how good it looks, when hopefully it looks a bit more full.
Surprise, when the shovels hit dirt in the earth, did they start to cry?
What a good looking gaming PC build. I think those extra 3 fans at the top really make it. And if you're not going to have an AIO in the King 15 Pro, I would certainly pick up an additional 3 fans, not only for airflow and temperatures, but to fill the void left at the top too. Now, in terms of the benchmarks today, I'll be using this Yamaha Blackhawk G-Master G2741QSU for my benchmarking. Yamaha kindly sent it over. It's got a 1440p panel at 144 Hz with a 1 millisecond response time. That's going to make it great for benchmarking this fairly affordable system at both 1080 and 1440p. In terms of what this equates to in the performance department, the results are pretty good across the board. And I'm going to start with the highest frame rate and work through to the lowest. Starting off with Apex Legends, which is the highest frame rate result. And let's begin, shall we, with the 1080p frame rate. Here the build pulled in an average of 275 FPS. That's just 25 frames per second less than the in-game cap that we see in Apex of 300, which makes this a great result. Tune up to 1440p and we do naturally lose a little bit of frame rate, but not as much as you might think, with the average staying at high settings at over 200 frames per second. In Call of Duty Black Ops 7 at 1080p high, again this build performed really well. High settings across the board delivered over 236 frames per second at 1080p, which is absolutely crazy and shows this build's abilities at 1440p. There's a lot of frame rate to spare. Specifically at 1440p in Call of Duty's Black Ops 7, tuning the resolution up does lose us some frame rate, but not as much as you might think, bringing the average down to 210 frames per second. Move through to Cyberpunk 2077. This was again tested at 1080p and 1440p to see really where this build is better placed. And here at 1080p high settings, the average frame rate sat at 120 frames per second, while tuning down to 1440p delivered an average of 82.6. Both solid results. You're probably going to want to go for the higher resolution in Cyberpunk, where frame rate's not quite as important given the visuals in this title, but in games like Apex Legends or Call of Duty, stick with those lower frame rates to get that more competitive gaming experience. What do you guys think of this build? Let me know in the comments down below. All the parts will be linked for latest pricing and availability in the description too. Thanks for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.